August 6, 2025. Guys, a little info coming in from the Ukraine and Russia conflict there. And it's been tit for tat. Of course, Ukraine is really propped up by NATO big time. And haven't had no hesitation of putting my support behind Russia on this particular conflict, not because I'd like to see the loss of life on either of those sides, and it's been a great loss, but the fact that Ukraine basically was the deep state for the U.S. You had, of course, Graham in there, and then you had Biden and Hunter going in there and all of that stuff on these pipelines, and all the weapons and biolabs, things like that was going on. So it was just a playground to get away from U.S. restrictions and to be a thorn in the side of Russia and have a way to continue the industrial military machine's money-making scheme. Now, what has also happened having to do with Russia and the U.S. is that Trump had a 25% tariff on a lot of things coming from India. He doubled that either late last night, I think, or this morning, to 50% because he had asked India to stop selling Russia oil. They didn't do it, and so he's going to try to use the tariff situation, which I think is wrong in this case because again, you're talking about the home of Joe and Hunter and Lindsey Graham and their playground and manipulation, and the bioweapons lab was a big deal to me. And so all of that came out after the last big plague hit. But Russia carried out an overnight drone strike on a crucial gas pumping and metering facility in Ukraine, triggering a large fire at the site, Ukrainian officials reported this morning. Importantly, the station is part of the liquid natural gas import scheme from the U.S. and Azerbaijan. According to Ukraine's energy ministry, a wave of drones targeted a metering station located near the Romania-Ukraine border, identified as part of the Trans-Balkan pipeline system. NATO member Romania scrambled fighter jets in response to the large attack right on its border. Romania was forced to scramble F-16 jets after Russia carried out a strike just a half a mile from the NATO nation's territories across the river. The country's Ministry of National Defense confirmed in a post on X that Russia carried out a drone attack near its border. On the night of August the 5th and 6th, the Russian forces launched a massive drone attack on the civilian infrastructure in the Ishmael area in Ukraine in the vicinity of the border with Romania. Now, this map, it's not the best in the world, but it shows where some of these pipelines are. Ukraine is in the tan right here. Russia's in this pale gray right there. And you got your seas here. Here's Romania. And that's who scrambled the jets. See right here, it says Orlovka, and I think that is the metering station and everything that they blew right there on that river. And again, the way this pipeline was set up, at one time, the Trans-Balkan pipeline, as they call it, was bringing a lot of gas and stuff, liquid natural gas, into Ukraine, and at times, as Ukraine has sent it back out via other transports. But also you've got Odessa right in this area, and that's really the crown jewel of the old Russian Empire. And that's right in that position, shutting the power down there. Of course, it's in the middle of all of this, that it would make it much easier to access, Odessa there, guys. And so they may be trying to shut down any access and start some types of attacks on Odessa. Could be that. It could be a tit for tat because Trump is trying to keep, again, India from selling Russia oil and gas. These pipelines, I think Russia's pretty much shut their supplies off to Ukraine. They go all the way, and you got three sections here: Romania, Hungary, Slovakia, that has pumping stations or receiving stations, Poland, and then on the border with Belarus. But Belarus is friendly with Russia. Remember, the map doesn't show it, but it goes right up here to that Suwalki corridor and out to Russia's Navy port there. But anyway, this is what we're dealing with on this side of it. Then again, we got the Russia-India thing, and I don't know what's going to happen there, because when you put 50% tariffs on them, that's really going to change their attitude too. And what I'm seeing is we've got some subs were sent over to really cover Russia by the U.S. Remember that a week ago or so? And the conflict is escalating a little too much this time, and it's becoming to where I think the NATO nations, with the help of Graham and that bunch of sleazeballs, are going to try to start a major war. And that's what I'm concerned about here. And it says the radar systems detected air targets in Ukrainian space close to Tulsia County at 1:10 a.m. The population in the north of the county was warned via RO alert. The ministry added in reference to Romania's official emergency warning system. The defense ministry stated that the two F-16 fighters took off to monitor their national airspace, but no unauthorized intrusions were detected. The ministry said it would carry out checks in the area and keep NATO allies updated in real time. The drones reportedly struck oil and gas pipelines at the Orlivka plant in Odessa. Bright orange flames and plumes of smoke were visible across the Danube River. Russia's defense ministry acknowledged the intentional attack on Ukraine's gas infrastructure, coming amid a renewed exchange of attacks by both Russia and Ukraine on energy and transport sites generally. So after 6 months, even the so-called energy ceasefire is clearly off, they're saying. Ukraine is busy making great efforts to stockpile gas ahead of what's typically a brutal cold winter. President Zelensky called it deliberate in terms of timing. Of course it was. It's war. And this is, I think, in Romania and across the river there, looking at the pipeline right there. And that's what they were talking about. Jets were flying here, monitoring. But that's a pretty big explosive, and that's a huge transfer system. Again, the Trans-Balkan pipeline is what they initially called it. He's saying it was a deliberate and utterly cynical attempt to disrupt our preparations for the heating season. The Trans-Balkan pipeline had, during the Soviet era and after one time, transported Russian gas through Ukraine to several Balkan and Eastern European countries, including Romania, Moldova, Bulgaria, Greece, and down south to Turkey. But Russia ceased using that route in late 2019 after the launch of the Turk Stream pipeline beneath the Black Sea. Now the flow direction is being reversed to get gas from external countries into Ukraine. Dozens of Russian drones attacked the gas pumping station, again part of the LNG imports. The ministry described the strike on the station near the Ukraine-Romanian border as purely against civilian infrastructure. What do you think it is when Ukraine strikes Russia's pipelines and gas? Same thing. Prices go up and people suffer in the winter, both sides. It says the fire in Ukraine was visible even from Romania. Russian occupiers struck a gas facility at the Ishmael district of Odessa. Ukrainian media report the strike completely destroyed the production equipment due to damage to the main gas pipeline. 25,000 customers were shut down at that time. 2,500 customers. Social media video has emerged of a large fireball above the gas facility, accompanied by sounds of loud anti-aircraft fire right near the Danube River, which forms the border between the two countries. I think that's where that picture was coming from. Currently, most of Ukraine's vital gas imports are flowing in via the country's interconnectors with Hungary, Slovakia, and Poland. And so what you've got now is this area shut down, going down into the Balkans. You've got an underground stream here that Russia's supplying Turkey. But right here, Slovakia, Hungary, Romania, and Poland, I'm coming back to the map. That's where they're having to get all the supplies now. Now, these folks also have to rely on winter gas and oil, so I don't know how long that will hold up, or if Russia, now, since this was Russian territory, especially Odessa, it was like the queen city or mother city for them. A beautiful place. That they may be about to take that over and shut down all of this right here, because Romania, Moldova, they are not friendly to Russia. And that's because they are controlled by NATO. And again, tying that in with the Indian situation there, I don't know how that will add fuel to the fire, but it's definitely not going to help. Now, another thing that's happening, and before I forget, we're going to go live at 2 p.m. Central Time this afternoon to the Texas State House. And more than likely, it's going to be a short session again, but it is an hour earlier. But what you're looking at now, and we talked about it yesterday, is Abbott files a lawsuit to start the removal of derelict Democrat Texas House members who fled state to block redistricting bill. And guys, they put on quite a show this morning in Massachusetts up there with those libtards. It was pretty sickening. It was lies, cheat, and stealing is what they were trying to do, but they were blaming the Republicans for doing that in Texas. And again, they brought up Jasmine Crockett and all that. It was pitiful. I almost did it live, but it was the same old crap we hear all the time when they get together and start whining and crying. But now this is Lou right here. This guy's kind of the spokesman for them, and Abbott is going directly after him. He wants him out now, and he's the one who gets up with his big mouth at some of these speeches and talks bad about Abbott and Paxton and Texas and the rest of the U.S. and forgetting Biden and Kamala and that group out of the White House. They just have not gotten over that. Now, Abbott filed the lawsuit last night with the Texas Supreme Court seeking to begin the process for the removal of House Democrat Caucus Chairman Gene Wu and others. The chairman, also, along with most of his Democratic House colleagues, fled the state to block a quorum in protest of the GOP's effort to carry out congressional seat redistricting. Also, the vote on provisions for the flood victims is tied up in that. Today, I took emergency action, he said, to begin the removal from office of derelict Democrat Texas House members who refused to show up for the special session. The governor filed a suit directly with the Texas Supreme Court to quickly make clear the authority I have to bring the lawsuit for removal of legislators from the office. Also, remember, they're trying to get the FBI involved in moving in to these. You've got Illinois, you've got Michigan now, we've got Massachusetts housing and supporting the Democrats. But basically, they're committing felonies for taking bribes to waste tax money and not show up for work and not get the votes necessary. And they only have about 10 days legally, I think, to pass some of this stuff and get it going into this budget cycle. So they're really dragging their feet, the Democrats are, on a lot of important things. But they're not going to win. They're going to lose. But they are basically, just like we saw yesterday, crying for an all-out coup. So we're going to have to keep an eye on those demons. Now, just going back a couple of days, Sunday, Abbott ordered the House Democrats who fled the state to break quorum to return to work, or he would take action to vacate their legislative seats and appoint replacements. This truancy ends now, Abbott said in that Sunday night statement. The derelict Democrat House members must return to Texas and be in attendance when the House reconvenes at 3 p.m. on Monday. Again, today it's 2 p.m. Central. The governor said he will invoke Texas Attorney General Opinion Number KP0382 to remove the absent Democrats from their elected office. Also, they could be charged with felonies. But that would be a great way to start decimating these demons out of politics. In that opinion, the Attorney General considered whether Texas law allows for a determination that a legislature has vacated office if they intentionally break quorum. The Attorney General concluded that whether a specific legislator abandoned his or her office such that a vacancy occurred would be a fact question for a court. Now, but last night it got moved up to their Supreme Court, guys. So again, what Abbott had, it's about a 70-page report, was the fact that he wants to show the Democrats in Texas that he's in charge, not them. And I think that's the way it should be. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton filed a notice with the Texas Supreme Court in support of Abbott's lawsuit. Texas is taking every available avenue to force runaway Democrats to return to Texas and hold them accountable for breaking quorum, said Paxton. Under the Texas Constitution and Texas law, the Office of the Attorney General has the legal authority to bring these cases against the renegade House members. Renegade, and man, they were grifting big time, talking about taking bribes and committing felonies. They were raising money talking about it in the speech this morning from Massachusetts. They are master grifters, but they're losing everything. He said, I have alerted the Texas Supreme Court that I will be making additional filings on Friday if the Democrats continue to abandon their legislative duties. Now, I think Abbott, guys, is trying to push this a little faster because you got a limited number of days left. They only had 2 weeks, I think, left to get everything done, and this one's being completely wasted. But we're going to be keeping an eye on this, guys. Again, you'll see the notice come up before too long about the 2 p.m. live stream. Again, I don't know if it will last over 5 or 10 minutes or not. I do know that they've been locking the doors there to the legislature, that big room there. I guess so no one can come in past time or anything, but they're kind of sealing it off. And I think it would be the greatest thing to ever happen to Austin, Texas, and the rest of the state. But the redistricting map covers a large section of Texas, but so does Indiana's. And by the way, let me show you what Pritzker has done. And he admits that his maps are ridiculous, the way he drew up his districting plans, but he said, but Texas is trying to steal seats. That's funny, isn't it? And this is his current Illinois district map. Of course, red is Republican, blue where the cities are, and the libtards are, and the sanctuary cities, they've got that cut out. They've got the majority of the Trump voters that they got them in red, and this is what you call gerrymandering a map and cutting the districts up to where you have no way but to win. Get all your libtards in these groups, and that's your big cities that have the most number of voters, especially when you add in Fitzer's illegals. But they want to complain and run here to Illinois and look at this map. And again, he says it's a ridiculous map, but Texas is trying to steal seats by doing theirs this way. And Texas is not chopped up this bad. But guys, we're watching it. If you don't get another report between 2 p.m. on the live stream, I'll see you then, guys. It's a heads up. Be safe.